Thank you for listening to our podcast on YouTube. We are super excited about the content coming your way.
Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of it. Welcome to the Face-to-Face Ministries podcast. I'm Kathy Little.
And I'm Melinda Wilson, and we are talking all things inner healing, true connection with Jesus, and the full benefits package of the cross. Thank you for joining us.
Hey.
Episode 6.
Man. Episode 6.
Yep.
And
Believe
you know,
it or not, here we are.
I just know from what we already have recorded that there are going to be tons and tons more episodes. Like one of these days, it'll be episode 200 and something or other.
Yep.
I really believe that because we have so much rich information from the interviews we've already done. That's going to take us like 3 or 4 months to even get out to everybody. And we have all these interviews that are lined up just over the next couple of months, couple weeks. Mm-hmm. And then we've got dozens more planned. So it's pretty exciting.
Here we go.
Here we go. So we wanted to jump right back into Dawna DeSilva and some more of our interview with her, which was absolutely brilliant. And again, if you've missed it, Dawna DeSilva co-founded the Bethel SOZO modality, or the tool set called SOZO, the Greek word for saved, healed, and delivered.
And just encourage you to go back and listen to
listen to the past couple episodes.
We start sharing the interviews or the tidbits of interview with her on episode 4.
Yeah.
So if you haven't yet listened to those, it's worth your time. It would
be a good time to jump back in to get caught up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is another installment from Dawna DeSilva. Here we go.
A question sometimes is, how do we as leaders encourage people to get their healing? Because it's like, what the fruit that's popping on your tree is a problem, and I need you to deal with it. That's how I would do it. I would just say, you know what just happened right there? Do you know what happened before you did that? What was going on inside? Why did that happen? I just use rage as a good one for people, because we're all supposed to be completely calm and peace of God and everything's fine. And this happens. So I need you to look at this, because that wasn't fun for me. Mm-hmm. And it's not coming from a place of, it's not fun for me and I need you always to be fun, but it's coming from the place of, that was very uncomfortable, and we really need you to look at what that was. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, I have to be willing to look at, when I'm making people uncomfortable, I have to be willing to let people say to me, hey, Dawna, when you threw that suitcase over your head like that made me feel uncomfortable. Oh, yeah, well, I was pretty angry at the time. And I'm going to go find out why.
Well, and that is a huge thing that we've talked about that a lot, that the church, sadly, as a whole, has a very difficult time dealing with people and their stuff. And I think you hear the term shooting their wounded or killing their wounded, and the church doing that, which is terribly tragic. And so it's often not a safe place, because it's like it's holding a mirror up to you, and I don't want to deal with that, so we're going to shame you. Or
and really, where that comes from is where they're talking about, if your brother sinned against you, go to him, make it right. And if that doesn't work, then take elders. If that doesn't work, then excommunicate them, Mm-hmm. And I've been in a church where someone was excommunicated, and I wanted to get up and leave. I was so offended, because it was a friend of mine, and my husband put his hand on me and said, sit, this needs to be done. I mean, so my heart was like, how can they do this, But there is a sense of, if that only happens when you're not going to deal with the issue. So if someone has an issue and they're like, Dawna, I need you, here's the mirror. Do you like that? No, because that's what I'm seeing. If I'm willing to deal with it, then there should be complete grace in me going for healing to do it. And then I should be different when I finish my sessions of healing, whoever's ministries that they're going to. And so it's not like the shame of, oh my gosh, I have to send you for getting help. It's like, no, we really want that tree gone, because we are to look like our Father, and our Father doesn't carry that. And so let's find out why it's there. Let's find out why we don't look like Jesus and we don't represent the Father. I would say though, at the same time, that there are people that just don't want to heal. And you don't want to waste all your time on that. And it's a sucking sound that you feel. It's like, and you're just like, you are not willing to heal. You're just going to live in your victim mentality. You're going to live in your entitlement. You're going to live in that place. And so I wouldn't spend a lot of time on people that aren't willing to heal.
Well, and they've really, it's become an identity for them.
Absolutely.
So they wouldn't even know what being whole looks like, because that's all they know, and that's safe. And so this is how I'm going to protect myself.
And one of our first questions for someone that comes in with that is, well, what would it look like if this sozo is successful? What would it look like to you in your life? Oh, I don't know. Well, you probably should have a goal, and you need to aim at something. What would it look like? Relational breakthrough with your family? Would it look like the ability to stand in front of someone and not start shaking? What would it look like if you were to know that this was successful? And that would be for someone who's extremely broken, so that you have a goal in sight. But what we do is, if like on our counselors, if you're not willing to do your homework, then we just keep putting you further and further out until your homework is done. Because I'm not going to work harder at your healing than you are. And that's from Danny Silk, who was my boss for years. And you need to own your own issue. So there are people that just waste your time. And we'll see you a couple of times, but after that we're like, you know what? It's different than someone is hard and struggling and doesn't know how to get free. It's completely different than someone wasting your time. Someone wasting your time, you feel that sucking sound of, you've got to help me, you've got to do this, and I'm not going to be able to help myself. Okay, that needs to fix. That's a shifting of atmospheres, and you need to internally shift that victim before we go anywhere, because, or you're not going to go anywhere, and or it's going to be an old-fashioned deliverance. Get out, victim, in Jesus' name, which can happen too. But so many times we have partnered with the demonic on purpose, and we don't want to let him go. I think what I would tell leaders, get an inner healing ministry. Then put the people that are taking all your time into that ministry. Let them get worked on. When we started the SOZO ministry, it gave Bill Johnson, it gave Danny Silk, it gave Chris Valentin, it gave my husband Steve Silva, it gave them all the ability to travel. Because we're taking care of the church now. And so the church wasn't being neglected, but they were able to do what they were called to do. And I think about the apostles that were, they were saying, you're not taking care of the widows correctly. And the apostles were like, you're right, but it's not our job to do. So let's raise up deacons, or let's raise up helpers that can take care of this, because it's a real need. But we need to continue to do what we're called to do, which was prayer and fasting and teaching the word. And so that's what allows our pastors to travel around and do everything, is we are taking care of the people.
Right. I mean, it's really pastoral care.
It's pastoral care.
Well, that's some pretty good advice for leaders.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because, wow.
And that can be any denomination.
Absolutely.
It's not one specific denomination or way of believing. This is the gospel. This is the good news. This is salvation. This is sozo.
Yes.
The fullness of salvation.
Yeah.
And if there is any way, or if you have a voice of influence within your church, or even a small community of believers to start a healing ministry, highly encourage you to do that.
Yeah. And as we continue to record podcasts, we're going to be really highlighting different modalities and exposure to that. We're really laying some foundation here with this interview with Dawna, because it was really like, what is this? Who needs this? Is it new age? Is it okay? What's this look like? And we really have a lot more to share on just what are the different tools that are available to help
Yeah.
people get healed.
Yeah.
Bethel SOZO is just one of them. You can go to bethelsozo.com and get information on that. They do trainings all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Very established. My church in Atlanta area is one of the regional training centers for Bethel SOZO in the Northwest Atlanta suburbs. But there, you can go to their website and find training on all this. And for leaders that want to get their people healthy and not have it all fall on the senior pastor to do counseling 24 hours a day, what a great idea. I mean, that's just really practical advice for leaders to go ahead and do that.
Right. And it doesn't take, you don't have to be ordained. You know, Jesus talked about the priesthood of all believers. We are
Yes.
all priests. We are called to minister to one another. This is not, being trained as an inner healing prayer minister. You are not required to have a college degree. You're not required to be of a certain age. You're not required to have attained some great status in your church or life. This is for everybody. And it's a matter of getting training and experience. Don't just go out and call yourself a pro at this without getting some experience and training in the context of community.
Yes.
That is key in the context of community and accountability and support. But you don't have to be a super Christian to do this, and there is no
Well,
such
that's a good
thing anyway.
because none of us is that.
And two, I wanted to talk about the church shooting their wounded, and Kathy, you certainly can address or talk to that. I know you mentioned it in your when you were sharing, some of your story, but do you want to follow up on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, one of the things that I realize is that people don't know what they don't know, and people don't know that they don't know it. A lot of times, that's just the way it is. And learning how to really come alongside and honor somebody in their brokenness, because that's not the real them. My true self was not at the table when I had my crash and burn. That was not who God designed me to be. That was not who I truly am as a daughter. It's just not who I am. That was my brokenness. That was some things that needed to be dealt with, needed to be exposed and dealt with. But especially when you're in a leadership position, you've got a position of, like some say, some leadership stuff, there's a lot of collateral damage that can happen. And the main thing that a leader would want to do in that case is to protect the congregation. Unfortunately, protecting some of them leaves others exposed. And I really think it's just a learning process of learning how do we come alongside someone. And I love how she said the whole Matthew 18 thing, there are steps to that. And repentance trumps blame. When you have a truly repentant heart and you are truly broken and you're dealing with your stuff, you're pursuing healing, then blaming you and punishing you is not necessarily valid. I mean, and that was the problem, is that the people that I went before in leadership in the church, they did not see that I was truly broken and repentant. But I was. I mean, they thought that just because I was so emotional that I was being manipulative in some way or something. I don't know what was going on, but all I knew is I was just trying to stay alive and trying to get the healing that I knew God had for me, because I already knew that his opinion of me had not been altered. But it took years for God to put those pieces back together. There was a change in leadership at the church, and a new pastor came in, and he found out that things had been handled so poorly and swept under the rug. And there was this big festering mess with some of the people who were collateral damage of my sin. And I had to sit in that. And I'll tell you, that was one of the hardest things. I'm a couple years down the road. I'm in a better place. I'm dreaming again. I'm back into leading worship. I've been really diligent to just pursue the healing journey God had for me. But like you were talking about, the capacity and expanding your capacity in the layers, I had to sit in the pain I had caused them, the people in my church. Because I was fully acquainted with my pain, fully. But I was not really connected to the pain and the damage that happened as a result of the choices that I had made. And that was hard. But it took another leader coming in who didn't have anything to win, lose, or protect to help pastor the church through that healing phase. And I'm really thankful that that did happen. And I had some prophetic words over me that it was as if the puzzle pieces, like I had the puzzle all made of my life, thought it was going to look this way, and it looked pretty good. And this whole event was like somebody throwing a fist down on the table, and the pieces went everywhere. But God very strategically put those pieces back together, and it took a few years. And even in healing the relationship with my ex-husband, there was some closure in a good place for that. And so, you know, I can't fault the church because they didn't know what they didn't know. But I do pray that as people get their own healing, as leaders in churches get their own healing, as they come to understand what we're talking about with the whole identity in Jesus, the full benefits package, and they walk through that and they understand that they'll be able to see people through a different lens. People that are broken in their churches and people who come in need of healing, or people who make mistakes, that they would come at that from a different place rather than, hey, you need to be punished and you need to jump through all these hoops in order for us to believe that you're repentant.
Yeah, well, and those leaders who are behaving like that, they obviously need to look in the mirror themselves.
Exactly.
Because that's not coming from a place of love.
Right.
And if they're recognizing their own behavior, and if they thought, wow, what if the shoe was on the other foot? I mean, again, it's like doing to others as you would have them do unto you. The famous golden rule. This is what Jesus said. How would you like to be treated if you messed up?
But people don't want to think about the shoe being on the other foot because we have to protect ourselves, because we don't want our garbage to be shown. We don't want to be exposed because we have this hidden sin, or we struggle with this or whatever. And somebody else who comes and they're broken and they've blown it, we have to protect our own image, because, well, what if we're exposed too? And I think that's probably where it's all fear driven. I mean, read Danny Silk's book, Culture of Honor. It's really, really helpful for people in this situation.
Well, and it's people like that or you know, when they're in that situation, it's opposite of what she was talking about, where you have the people who might suck you dry. And a lot of you out there may recognize that, people that are like, oh, I've heard it called, they're a black hole. And you're like, oh God, you know, you turn the other way when you see them coming toward you because they want prayer for the 995th time. And you have exhausted your resources, and they've exhausted everyone else's resources. And they have come to truly know their identity as someone who's broken.
Exactly.
And they're a victim, and they really don't want out of it because they wouldn't even know who they are apart from that.
That's true.
And so that's kind of the opposite of the Pharisaical or religious spirit person who says, I've got nothing wrong with me. Who are you to say anything's wrong with me? I mean, gosh, when someone's gets that defensive, you know something's wrong. But then you have the opposite of, I am something wrong, and I need help over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so it's recognizing both, and it's, I think, also learning how to set boundaries. And, okay, these are the people, who do I want to invest in? Who's God calling me to invest in? And I think, Kathy, too, so much of this is just walking in an awareness of what God's doing in my own life. You know, we're sitting here talking all this time, and yet Kathy and I both have, as we've shared our own healing journeys, and when stuff comes up, y'all, I really am. I'm like Dawna. It's like, oh, what's that about? I'm not constantly navel gazing, but I do want to be aware of stuff. If I get triggered, if a button is pushed, it's like, oh man, I thought God already healed me there. And he's like, well, I have, but I want to go deeper.
Right.
Like, oh, okay, all right. And, it could be a little bit, and then he's like, Melinda, it's not as hard as you think. And it's not going to be that difficult. And I just want to, I'm just showing you a little bit, like I think you said, or Dawna, I can't remember who, but there's just a little deficiency here. And I want to fill it up more with my love. That's
Right.
all that's missing here
Right.
is an experience with you. I think Graham Cook says something like that. He doesn't see our faults. I'm not quoting him exact. He doesn't see what's wrong with us. He sees what's missing in our experience
Right.
with
Right.
him. And that's what inner healing does too. It fills in places that we've lacked. We've lacked love. We've lacked experience. We've all lacked love, y'all. We've lacked that. We're missing the experience of encountering his presence and a
Right.
deeper revelation of his love. And so
Well, thankful that God doesn't let us stay there, but that he does want us to go deeper. And he does want to reveal so much more of himself to us. And for so many people, we hear that and we file that in our logic brain filing cabinet. But to be able to come to a place where we actually encounter that love and we have a revelation of his heart for us, that changes everything.
it does change everything.
It changes everything. Well, hey, that's a wrap on
Episode 6.
Episode 6.
Thank
and
you so much for
thanks
joining us today with our Face-to-Face Ministries podcast. We're
absolutely.
so glad that you've come along for the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we want to thank Rich and Lindy Oliver of the River Fellowship, the organization that we're credentialed with and ordained with, for sponsoring this bit with Dawna DeSilva. We're really grateful for their sponsorship. And hey, if you want to help us get the word out, you are more than welcome to jump in. You can go to facetofaceministries.org/give for information on supporting there. And also, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast, rate it with a 5-star rating, helps us get more exposure. You're part of helping us get the word out.
Indeed.
We need your help here. We're very excited to include you in helping us do that. So definitely like, share, follow. If you have any questions about what you've heard or anything you want to hear
Please
about,
comment. Please ask questions.
comment. You can
love to hear from
certainly
you.
go to Instagram. Face to Face Men is our name there. You can DM us there. You can email us info@facetofaceministries.org and find out more about who we are.
Follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of ways to connect in this day and age.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. For more information about us and our vision, please go to facetofaceministries.org. That's faceministries.org.
Please like, share, subscribe, rate, review. Help us
Get the word out.
There is so much more to come.